Hello YouTube and welcome back to Assetto Corsa, and in this episode we're going to be continuing with the Ferrari pack by taking a look at this. I did say I was going to take a look at a road car after the fantastic F2004, and we're taking a look at this in this episode, the Ferrari 812 Superfast. Really strange name, Superfast, but you know, whatever Ferrari's naming conventions are, which they do keep changing over the years, their cars are fantastic for the most part, and this one is no different at all. This is a naturally aspirated V12 engine. Now this is very important because, you know, a couple of years ago we were talking about V12 engines disappearing off the market in the naturally aspirated form, turbochargers taking charge everywhere, and, you know, electric hybrid vehicles. Looks like Ferrari have decided, nope, we're just going to go for a naturally aspirated V12 engine, 6.5 litres. So it's a pretty big engine, producing 800 horsepower, 789 bhp as I like to work it out, at 8,500 rpm and 718 newton meters of torque. Well, that's 530 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 rpm. That's pretty impressive, with a maximum rpm of 8,900. And I think from 3,000 rpm onwards you get something like 80% of the total torque. So you're looking at a good amount of torque there of what, over 500 newton meters of torque from 3000 rpm onwards, which is actually really good. So far on paper this car is fairly impressive. Of course, it's not your everyday supercar Ferrari in that sense that it's a coupe. If you look at it, it looks like a hatchback. In fact, it is a replacement for the is it F12 Berlinetta. So the F12 Berlinetta is the car that it replaced, which in turn I think replaced the 612 Scaglietti. Which I remember when that car came out, it looked really strange for a Ferrari. I wasn't used to seeing a Ferrari in that body style, but you know, they've managed to continue on with this, and that engine allows a 0 to 60 of around 2.8 seconds and a top speed of, well, what is this top speed? I don't even know. I genuinely don't know the top speed. Wow, that's a bit embarrassing. How do I not know the top speed of this car? Huh. If anyone knows the top speed, do let me know. I'm probably going to remember it further along the line, because yeah, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head, but I don't know what top speed is. Okay, we're going to move on from that. It is a rear-wheel drive, but it also has rear-wheel steering. It's electronic power steering on the front, so it's a lot lighter. And I sort of felt that in the force feedback. It felt like a much lighter car, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how that rear wheel steering affects how the car drives. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. But to continue with these with the specs of this car, it's top speed 210 miles per hour. 211, sorry, no, 211, yes, I do remember, 211 miles per hour, 7-speed automatic gearbox, but it is paddle shifter, and its curb weight is about 3,600 pounds, which is 1,630 kilograms, so it's a fairly heavyish car in comparison to maybe some of the lighter supercars, but all that power coming from that V12 engine, you know, 789 brake horsepower, that makes it the most powerful road-going Ferrari, standard road-going Ferrari around, just from an engine. I think even the LaFerrari doesn't produce that much power from the engine in itself, so that's actually really impressive. And of course, it being a V12, it's beautiful, it sounds beautiful, you can hear it right there in front of you, or if you're listening, obviously you're listening to this, you can just hear that noise. It's really nice. So that's pretty much the specs of this. What is interesting is that it's not a mid-engine. Obviously, if you look at the configuration of the car, it's a front-engined rear-wheel drive, so that means that it is going to suffer from some amount of understeer, and I think that they've used this rear-wheel steering to try and compensate for that. So with all the specs out the way, what is it like in Assetto Corsa? Now, obviously the modelling, the texturing, we don't really need to go into. It's a very well modelled car. It's a very well textured car. I know sometimes Kunos have a little bit of issues with textures or stuff like that. They've never seemed to have an issue with the model in itself. So the model looks absolutely fantastic, and it is a style that sort of grows on you a little bit. It reminds me of obviously the modern Ferraris. They seem to have this more chiseled look at the front, and this car is no different. At the back, I love the double lights on either side. I think that's really, really important for Ferrari. But with that being said, it does look slightly odd, I think, with the styling that they've chosen for the rear lights. I'm sort of used to a whole rear light as opposed to like a ring. So I'm used to maybe the older style Ferrari, so it's something that I have to get used to myself. But nevertheless, it's a really, really well done car by Kunos. And it's modeled really well, it's textured really well, there's plenty of colors available, and it does look really, really nice. Inside, everything looks functional, everything looks very upmarket as well. For a car like this, it's a supercar, but it looks very upmarket. But the most important thing is the sounds and the physics. The sounds on the car are really, really nice. Again, outside, I think maybe it needs a bit more oomph, like the Ferrari F2004, but inside it sounds very nice. The cabin itself is fairly quiet, so you can hear that V12 engine, but it is a little bit quiet. The physics, however, with the rear wheel steering, it took me a while to get used to it, because as you get to a certain speed, I don't know what the exact speed is, that rear wheel steering sort of switches off. So you start getting more understeer at the higher speeds, and you have to turn the wheel in more. It's not inherent understeer in the body or the chassis of the car. It's just understeer because you're not used to that rear wheel steering being off. Whilst in the smaller corners or the sharper corners, hairpins and stuff like that, it's a lot more agile, and it can turn a lot faster with that rear wheel steering. It's been well modeled by Kunos. It really, really is very, very nice, but it takes getting used to, and I think that's quite realistic, because, you know, if suddenly your steering dynamics are changing as you're driving, it's very realistic, and I like that. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of rear wheel steering. It's a bit odd, but I can understand why it works on, for example, tight country roads. If you were to take this out Black Cat County or Lake Louise or that Highland circuit in Scotland, I can understand how that would work, and the rear wheel steering would come in handy around the tighter corners. Whilst here, obviously in the slower corners, it sort of kicks in a bit, and it's a little bit confusing. It is a little bit confusing. Nevertheless, it's a really, really nice car to drive. I think that this car deserves a nice 9 out of 10 from Kunos there. So from me, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 for the actual car. They've done really, really well on the car. I think the Ferrari pack has just been, it's just a fantastic bit of kit. You know, the cars in there are really, really well done. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think of the 812 Superfast, and also if you agree with me. You know, do you agree that that rear wheel steering is a little bit awkward to get used to, but it really feels quite nice once you've actually got used to it? So do let me know what you think of that. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and do support my Patreon scheme. Link to that is in the description box below. I will see you guys in the next episode of Assetto Corsa. Yeah, I just curbed it.